You know we're going to cut short-term rates dramatically in the next year. The playbook's pretty clear. So what would an ideal portfolio be in something like that?
Tokens would allow you to create innovative new business models.
Welcome back. We are on a mission to make life-changing returns. That's the entire purpose of this channel. The best way to do that is by being an early-stage investor in undiscovered revolutionary technology. It's happened time and time and time again. It even happened to Cardano. People who bought Cardano in 2020 literally did 100x. So what are the opportunities today while prices are down? To understand where we can get life-changing returns, we have to look at what some of the best investors of all time are saying about the future, right? If you can see the future, you know exactly what to invest in. So today we're going to hear from Paul Tudor Jones, the multi-billionaire investor, one of the greatest investors of all time, literally has to say about what comes next for financial markets and what it means for some of the most undiscovered revolutionary altcoins. Here's Paul Tudor Jones.
You know we're going to cut short-term rates dramatically in the next year. The playbook's pretty clear historically and right now. We're in a debt trap. You're going to have to run negative real rates to get out of it. That's what we did in the 50s. We had a variety of prices fixed by the Treasury while we had 5 and 6% inflation for a period of time. We're going to have negative real rates. And so what would an ideal portfolio be in something like that? Well, what has worked so far? What has worked so far has been Bitcoin, gold, stocks. That's probably your best portfolio to fight inflation.
You said at one point you would allocate 1 or 2% of your portfolio to Bitcoin. Is it still?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just, particularly now that the roadmap is clear, we know 12 months from now, rates are going to drop precipitously with a new Fed chair. Was it last week when Donald Trump dropped rates 100 basis points?
Yes.
So we know where his head is. We know who he's going to point. If I have to make a decision on stocks and I think that rates are going to be 3% in 12 months, yeah, I'm probably long.
Doesn't get more exciting than that when you know what's coming next. And he sees lower interest rates, higher inflation, and Bitcoin, stocks, and gold as being the best investment to outrun that inflation and to benefit from a low interest rate environment. Why is the interest rates environment so ridiculously important to altcoins like ICP and Chainlink? Because as discussed in last week's video, here's the US ISM manufacturing PMI. This measures manufacturing activity. It measures the economy, right? It looks exactly like the chart of ICP. Here's the chart of ICP. Here's the chart of Chainlink. So altcoins are correlated to the ISM, which is essentially the economy. Right now, they're so early stage. They're kind of rising and falling with the economy. Eventually they'll emerge and they'll be propped up by their booming fundamentals. But for now, they're so early stage, so undiscovered, we're tied down to what the economy is doing. So what moves the ISM? Interest rates, right? He sees lower interest rates in the future. Well, this is where interest rates are now. This is the federal funds effective rate. So what you can see is interest rates went high in 2020. Then they cratered down. So what happened to the ISM in 2020? The ISM fell while interest rates were high, but then the second they were lowered, the ISM skyrocketed, right? It just pumped. That's when Bitcoin went from 3K to 69K. That's when something like Cardano went from 3 cents to $3. So we need that ISM to pump. Interest rates are the cause. This is where interest rates are now. They haven't dropped yet. Paul Tudor Jones sees them dropping. When interest rates drop, the ISM will pump. What does that mean for altcoins? Here's the chart from Raoul Pal and Global Macro Investor. Here's the ISM in black, and in pink we see altcoins as a percentage of Bitcoin. So when the ISM goes up in black, altcoins as a percent of Bitcoin skyrocket, meaning we get alt season. So interest rates are the big driver. He sees them falling. He wants to be in inflation hedges like stocks, Bitcoin, and gold, right? We know altcoins skyrocket in environments like that. That's exactly what he sees coming. Now, why do we know interest rates are coming? Because Trump, like Paul Tudor Jones just said, is going to replace the Federal Reserve chair. They're going to replace the Fed chair. They're going to get someone in there who wants to lower interest rates. How do we know Trump is going to do that? Well, here's Trump's take on interest rates.
And if we had a good Fed chairman, you would lower rates. And you know what? If inflation happened in a year from now or 2 years, let him raise rates. But we're going out for long-term debt or short-term debt. We have a lot of debt coming due because Biden had all short-term debt, mostly. and we would get a lower rate and a lower interest rate if this guy would lower rates. We get a lower interest rate. It's unbelievable. And he's worried about inflation. If he worries about inflation any longer, all he has to do is get the lower rate, let us go out, borrow at a much lower rate, much lower. You could go down a point or two. We'll go out, borrow them, and if in 2 years inflation comes back, he raises rates. But he keeps them the same. It's insane.
Are you already thinking about your next Fed chair at this point? Are you already thinking about who your next Fed chair would be? I know it's 2026 when his term expires, so you're already thinking about it.
It's coming out very soon.
So again, interest rates are the most important input when it comes to altcoins. And Trump, the president, just said that they need interest rates to come down so that they can refinance their massive debt. If they can refinance their massive debt, you can refinance your debt. Homeowners can refinance their debt because interest rates will come down. Interest rates are the oxygen of the financial system. So the government's plan agrees with exactly what Paul Tudor Jones just said. Bring interest rates down. We know it's going to cause altcoins to absolutely skyrocket. So it's just a waiting game. So from a macroeconomic perspective, the setup could not be better. We have one of the best investors of all time telling us the future is extremely bright for altcoins. In a nutshell, that's what he's saying, because interest rates are going to come down. They're going to let inflation run hot. So bullish. That's what they did during the pandemic. Trump agrees with that. Now let's hear from Michael Saylor about what he sees for the future of these altcoins from a fundamental perspective. Altcoins are totally undiscovered. No one on Wall Street understands them. It's Bitcoin, gold, and stocks. Well, stocks include revolutionary technology. Are altcoins revolutionary technology? Does Michael Saylor agree that there is a place for these assets in the future? Well, he just gave a brand new update on what he sees for the future of altcoins.
The best future for the crypto industry and what the U.S. should do if they want to create a $100 trillion digital assets industry is, in law, they should define 4 new asset classes. The digital commodity, that's what Bitcoin is, an asset without an issuer. There's only going to be one king commodity. There might be half a dozen over the next decade. The digital currency, that would be a stable coin backed 1-for-1 with US currency. Then the digital security, that would be a tokenized stock or bond circulating 24/7, 365 at the speed of light everywhere in the world, like digital Apple stock. And then the final would be a digital token. A digital token would be a tokenized fan club, a tokenized ticket, a tokenized membership of some sort. And there's 40 million small businesses in this country. And if you want to issue a token, you should be able to issue a token in 4 hours. And you ought to say what the token does. It ought to have some digital utility or real world utility. And when you look at Trump coin, it's a meme coin. That means a token that has no utility. I happen to believe that there's a place for all 4 of those assets, but I also think that tokens would allow you to create innovative new business models.
So again, this is so massive because he's the biggest Bitcoin bull on the planet, but the future he's creating involves digital tokens that do things, that have utility, that are important, that increase in value. Right now, altcoins are totally undiscovered by the market. But he's saying there's a future for altcoins, which means the highest quality altcoins are going to skyrocket. So on the macroeconomic front, we have Paul Tudor Jones and Trump aligning that the setup for altcoins is incredibly bullish. We have Michael Saylor saying there's a bright future for altcoins. And the charts of a lot of these altcoins look like Cardano did in 2020 before they 100x'd. So this is why, to me, it's the opportunity of a lifetime. And that's why we stay on top of what's going on with the highest quality altcoins on this channel. Because again, the goal is life-changing returns. So here's an update from one of those high quality altcoins, ICP. Gate.io shared this. What is Gate.io? It's a top 3 crypto exchange, 12 plus years, 3,800 plus tokens. The top 3 crypto exchange on the planet, a massive organization. So we can generally trust what they post. Over the past 30 days, ICP is topping the dev activity chart. Here are the top projects by developer activity over the last 30 days. ICP, 847.1. beating my other favorite asset, Chainlink, beating Cardano, beating Filecoin, beating Optimism, beating Kusama, beating Polkadot, beating STRK, beating Ethereum, and beating DeepBook. This doesn't include all the assets on the planet, but it has ICP beating Ethereum in developer activity. We talk about ICP and what it does all the time on this channel. So go look at other videos if you want to understand more of what this revolutionary asset does. But for now, just know that development activity, building future applications, future revenue generation potential is coming to ICP. Lots of money is being put to work on this world computer. So just so massive, right? Totally undiscovered asset being developed more than Ethereum according to Gate.io. What about Chainlink? Again, a totally undiscovered asset. Wall Street has no idea what's going on with these revolutionary altcoins. They just don't. We're excited to share that Chainlink is facilitating the secure exchange of a Hong Kong central bank digital currency and an Australian dollar stablecoin as part of an ongoing use case in phase 2 of the EHKD Plus pilot program. These are the organizations involved in this experiment done with Chainlink. Congratulations to participants Visa, ANZ, a massive Australian bank, China AMC, and Fidelity International, the multi-trillion-dollar investment management firm, on their role in transforming cross-border payments. So this is the future that's being built before our very eyes. Again, Michael Saylor sees a vision where altcoins can thrive. Paul Tudor Jones sees a vision where the macro environment will be very bullish for altcoins. And this is the future being built by some of the biggest institutions on the planet. We have investors at the massive ANZ Australian bank putting money in investor wallets. That wallet has a token contract connected to Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the enormous Hong Kong Monetary Authority, which is going to have a central bank digital currency. It's just the fact of what's going on. That money flows into ANZ Hong Kong from ANZ Australia. The token contract is facilitated by none other than the glue that's holding the future financial system together, CCIP for payment versus payment, Chainlink's infrastructure. That wrapped token contract goes to Fidelity International, a multi-trillion-dollar organization again, right? Fidelity International buys tokenized funds, which are secured by Chainlink CCIP, and that moves back into the token contract. So what you see is Chainlink is the glue holding the future financial system together. We have the biggest organizations on the planet using it and planning to use it. We're talking trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of value moving through Chainlink. Doesn't get bigger than this. So we have the most developed asset in blockchain, ICP, and we have Chainlink growing in adoption. That's what we have to look forward to. It does not get bigger than this.